go ahead and record our meeting now. So I'm starting the recording of the meeting at this point. Okay. Now what's going to happen is that I'm going to post all of our classes in Basecamp. So all of our classes will be posted in Basecamp. And we'll just finish this article, and then we'll go over and take a look at Basecamp. Now, the way we're set up, starting out, there are only 2 applications, or actually 3 applications you need to have running to make this class work for you. Basecamp, which we're about to investigate, and most people are okay with that. Chime, which you're all on, and Canvas. So what we'll do in our time together to start between now and 2 o'clock is make sure everybody has a chance to make sure that they can get to Basecamp, Chime, and Canvas, starting with Basecamp. Now you're already on Chime, so that should be good. You're already on Chime, otherwise you wouldn't be here, so we just need to handle Basecamp. Now back to, there's one of the students asked in text, why are we using AWS Chime and not Zoom? So now you should understand that, golly, Zoom runs on top of AWS. Okay? And I just showed you this very technical video. So I realized that when I showed you that video that I was scaring some people. Did I scare anybody when you started watching that video with all that technology jargon? I have a resolute nope. Okay, that's good. Well, I was scared. So I just want to know if anybody was scared like I was scared, that is this the wrong class for me? No. By the end of this class, at least on a block level, you'll understand everything that was in there. And that's what I wanted to talk about, our planned growth for you over the 16 weeks. So we have some folks that will be the implementers of technology, and we'll have other folks that will be the shepherds of technology. So you'll take more of a business approach to things. You're not interested in turning the screws. You're interested in managing the turning of the screw. Okay? So, but you need to understand what's going on. You need to understand what's going on. So by the end of the 16 weeks, that will be, for some folks, what the outcome will be, is that they will really, really, really understand cloud at a very sophisticated level. Now, they might not be able to go out and build Zoom, but they'll understand what's involved with going out and building Zoom. And others of you will actually be able to go out and build Zoom. In fact, I hope you do that, and that's why we're using Chime, because Chime gives you an excellent opportunity to think about embedding it into your own application, embedding video, audio and video into your own application. Okay. So now that we've taken a look at Basecamp, and everybody's able to get to Basecamp, we have a couple of folks that aren't, and you're going to email me. I'm going to go over here to the message board, and I'm going to click on class notes, and I'd like everybody to join me. Okay, has anybody not seen this video? Has anybody not seen this video that's on the front of class notes? All right. So I'm going to play the video. Here we go. I'm going to play the video for us here.
At first you were afraid, you were petrified, kept thinking you could never learn without us by your side.
But then you spent so many nights being filled with much concern, and you grew strong and learned just how to distance learn.
So you did, on my screen. I just walked in to find your name. Here I won't ask you where you've been.
Your voice is crucial to the class. Discussions have not been the same. You have a major to complete. Let's get you back into the game.
I'm interested. Give us your God.
Raise up your hand now, express your views which you have brought.
When you the one who was determined to succeed.
This is we will give up. This is we will let.
just conceive.
You will survive. As long as you will stay clear, I know you are not fly. You got all the stuff to learn, and you think you will strive, and you'll survive. You will survive. Hey. Hold it from your heart, let them fall apart. Keep trying to be hard, you gotta find that on the start.
And you spent such a time when you struggle day and night. You used to cry, but now you hold your head up high.
And we see you log on to a strong and self-assured young student with objectives to pursue.
Now you're enrolling for the fall and for the summer courses too.
Brought you along for all your classes, we know just what you've been through.
Come on and go, log on right now, and post a comment. It is true, you've mastered how.
What you the one who passed that 5 and Class 3? Public speaking, economics, French and music history.
Oh yes, that's you. You will survive. As long as you will stay committed, I know you are not fly. You got all this stuff to learn, and increase you will shine. You will survive. You will survive. Oh yes, that's you. You will survive. As long as you will stay committed, I know you are not fly. You got all this stuff to learn, and increase you will shine. You will survive. You will survive. Hey.
Okay, the point is you're going to do just fine in this class. Right? So that's the point. You're going to do just fine in this class. Basecamp class notes. This is where you're going to find most of your information. Okay? This is where you're going to be. And this is where I'm going to try and keep most of the information so you only have one place to go. This is where we started back in week 0, where we put up the orientation and some pre-course work. And what our objective in your pre-course work was that you get acclimated to the primary tools that you're going to use, Basecamp and Canvas. Okay? And here's a little instruction here that tells you how to go ahead and get Canvas up and running. Once you get it running on the browser first, then what you can do is make sure you have it on a mobile app. You're going to want to do that because it's quite convenient, very, very convenient to run on a mobile app. What you're going to have mostly in Canvas are videos. You're going to watch videos, very short videos. They're between 5 and 10 minutes. They've been professionally produced by AWS. What AWS has and what you're a part of is something called the AWS Academy. And they've spent a lot of time and thinking about how to do this right, and they've done an excellent job.
The AWS Academy really is an effort to reach out to higher education institutions and to collaborate closely with them. So on our side, we're offering benefits to those institutions in terms of authorized and maintained curriculum, courseware that those educators at the universities can easily incorporate into an existing class or have it as a standalone class for their students. We believe that by collaborating with higher education institutions as a partner, that we can work closely with them and with their educators and faculty members to provide that courseware and lab and other hands-on experiences that students need in order to prepare them for jobs that really are ready and waiting as the cloud migration occurs throughout the world.
When a student finishes our Academy Cloud Architecture course, they're able to more deeply understand how these resources work together from a perspective of troubleshooting, of identity and access management, the concept of least privilege. Being able to stand up an architecture that's not only highly available, meaning resilient to intrusion or attacks, but also scalable to meet demand, which is sometimes out of their control. We also introduce serverless architectures, things like Lambda, and how to use our managed services in order to eliminate some of the complexity behind standing up resources.
if an instructor and educator wants to blend the content and have the students do a lot of the pre-work and pre-reading outside of class time, that's fine, because all the lecture notes and all the slideware is available for students to be able to do that independently on their own, so that when they come to class, the professor can spend more time on team-engaged learning, project work, lab work. Having said that, for those that are more comfortable in a more traditional lecture-driven environment, that's fine as well, because all the lecture notes, all the material is there for them to use the class time to go through the courseware in a more traditional manner. So I see it as the best of both worlds.
The students are really leaving the class with not only the theory, but also the hands-on practice. But a lot of studies have shown that they really retain more when they're doing hands-on practice. Part of the thing that I think really helps them transitioning out to the workforce is the lab environment that AWS Academy gave us. So they were able to get the lecture that night and then also go right directly into the lab with what they've learned and go step by step and actually build these things that we were just talking about. So I think it really helps to kind of cement it into their heads. And that helps them too, transitioning out to an employer who maybe wants somebody who can come in and work with their AWS environment. These people are coming out of Bellevue College. They know how to do these things. You know, it's not just I picked this up from a book. It's I've actually done this. I remember how to do this.
We have found the AWS Academy to be a really interesting and very useful device for us. It's useful in a number of ways. Clearly, our students who've gone and achieved certification are very attractive in the marketplace.
These students need to be prepared for the cloud computing jobs that are waiting for them. When you think about the demand that exists with industry, we know and they know that they need better prepared and larger quantity of graduates. That's the invitation, to participate with us collaboratively. It's a complementary program. We're strategically investing in this, and we're asking you to invest a bit of your time and energy to adopt cloud computing curriculum, courseware into your current programs.
So that's what you're a part of. You're a part of AWS Academy, and it's a really neat program. They provide excellent tools. However, there is a price, but it's not a price that you have to pay. It's a price that the educator has to pay. The educator, Professor Brian and myself, the only way they'll allow us to participate with this program is if we indeed get certified. But isn't that great news for you? So it's not just us getting the curricula and presenting it to you. We have to pass the same tests that you aspire to pass. So we have to go past cloud practitioner, and et cetera, so that that's the requirement for them to allow us to teach you. I think that's a great requirement. Okay, make sure that the teacher can do. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to head over to Canvas. Many of you are on there, and what we're going to do is we're going to see if we can rectify any situations where folks are not on Canvas. So this is what Canvas looks like. What I'd like is for everyone to try and get to Canvas. Many of you are already there, and the specific course that we're going to be looking at will say Cloud Foundation. Okay, course number 2765, Cloud Foundation. So I want to see how many folks can get to AWS Academy Cloud Foundation. Why don't we just take just a couple of minutes and for folks to have the time to try and do that, and then we'll pick it up. So I'm just going to wait for about 3 minutes, and I'd like for everyone to see if they're able to get to this. Now, if you're not, that's not a problem. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to resend the information. So what I'm going to do is I have a number of people. 48 people have not picked up their invitations for 48 people had not picked up their invitations for this course. So what I've just done is I've just resent the email. So what I'd like you to do is, if you have never received an email for Canvas, check your email now. I've just resent the emails. I've just resent the emails. So the emails have been resent. I'm going to resend them again. And I'm going to look for people logging on. So I can see right now I have 48 people who haven't logged on to Canvas yet. We have about 250 in the course, so that means that Most of the folks have logged in. Now, I have several people that are dialing in. What you'll need to do, not today, but next class, do not use the phone number to dial in. If for some reason you cannot do this on your computer and you need to do it on your phone, it's okay to do it on your phone. But use the app on your phone and put the app on speakerphone, okay? Do that for us. The reason for that is that it causes unnecessary charges if you use the dial-in, okay? And and being cost conscious, okay, we would ask you, since there's no reason to use the dial-in, you're actually better off. As many of you probably notice, digital audio is clearer than the telephone analog audio anyway. So please go ahead in the future. You can stay on today if this is what you need to do. I don't want to make it too complicated for you today. But in the future, I would like everyone to be logged on using the digital app, even if you're doing it from a mobile device. And if you need help with that, no problem. I'll be more than happy to help you sometime outside of class hours with making that happen. Not a problem, okay? So let's see. I'm going to refresh my page and see if I've had some people sign in. I still have 48 unaccepted invitations. So, yeah, Canvas is also known as infrastructure. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Very true. I'm just going to wait here to see if this number goes down. Now, in Canvas, you would have received invitations for 3 different courses, okay? You would have received invitations for 3 different courses. You would have received an invitation for Cloud Foundations, for Cloud Architecting, for Cloud Developing, okay? So if you, what I would like you to do is to make sure you can get in, and what you want to do is you want to eventually get to where you're in Cloud Foundations, AWS Academy Cloud Foundations. So this is where you want to be. And if what we're going to do is we'll be spending pretty much between now and 2 o'clock getting make sure everybody has access to the tools that you'll need. And if that doesn't happen, if you still have a problem, what you can do is you'll email me. And I'll put my email address up one more time before we break. I'll put it up right before we break. You email me and I'll see what I can do to help resolve the issues for you. And if we can't resolve them during the class, we'll get them resolved after the class. Good. I see someone accepted an invitation. That's good. Okay. So it looks like most folks are probably on this. So let's see. I see a photo here. Let's see. I can't really tell what that says. It says it looks like you're almost in. Oh, there might be something that you needed to sign that you didn't sign, that you skipped. I know there's something that you need to sign. Okay, great. Do this for me. Send that photo to my email. Okay, send that photo to my email. Yeah, and if you don't have 3 courses, just let me know which course you don't have. One course title is Foundation. The other course title is Architecture. The third course title is Developing. If you're missing one of those, don't worry about it. Just tell me which one you're missing, okay? Just tell me which one you're missing, and I'll take care of it at the top of the hour. So send that to me in an email. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and walk you through at this time what you have going on here, your key areas. The most important area, now, you see we have grades. I don't really follow grades, okay? What you're going to want to do is complete, they're going to tell you everything that you need to complete. So when we go to modules, and I'm clicking on modules here, they're going to tell you what you need to complete. And that's what you need to complete for AWS to give you credit for completing the module. Going back over to Basecamp, I'd like to review with you an interesting question that was asked. Okay, a few days ago, Aniqua asked the question, what's the difference between AWS Academy Certificate of Completion, QCC Continuing Education Certificate, and the AWS certification? So right now, I'd like to talk about this AWS Academy Certificate of Completion because that relates to what we're looking at right now. In each of your classes, like this is your foundations class, you'll have several modules. So we have an introduction, then module 1, module 2. So let's take a look at the title. So introduction, then module 1. This is going to give you your basic understanding of the cloud.
After completing this module, you should be able to, number 1, hello, and welcome to AWS Cloud Foundation's Module 1. This is called Cloud Concepts Overview. This module addresses the following topics: Introduction to Cloud Computing, Advantages of Cloud Computing, an Introduction to Amazon Web Services, and the AWS Cloud Adoption Framework.
Okay, so you'll have videos in each of your modules. And in the education field, what they realize is that videos should be short. AWS spent a tremendous amount of resources to put these courses together. They have an incredible global operation. A global operation that last year did someplace well north of $45 billion in business. Okay. They operate close to 100 data centers around the world. Each of those data centers are billion-dollar buildings. So we're talking about a billion-dollar structure where they've also laid undersea cables under the Atlantic and the Pacific to string the entire world together. And so at the end of the day, you have a scenario, and why don't I play this video real quick, because this will be very helpful for perspective, and it's not going to take that much time. And even though this was something that was assigned, I know that perhaps a lot of people didn't have a chance to do it, and it's not bad watching it twice. Let's take a look at what AWS really is.
So when you think of Amazon, you probably think of this ugly website, or maybe Amazon buying Whole Foods and making avocados cheaper. But Amazon also sits behind a huge portion of the internet. It dominates the server-side computers that make the internet work. Right now, you're probably watching this video on a computer or a phone, but when you click play, it isn't just your computer that's doing the work. There's another computer somewhere out there in the world that's sending the video to you, playing it along with you from hundreds of miles away. And a lot of those computers are run by Amazon. Most people online have no idea they're there. You only see them when you look at the big picture. So what do those computers look like? They mostly look like this, a loud room with a ton of server racks. But while you might expect that Apple's servers are run by Apple and Netflix's servers are run by Netflix, the reality is weirder. See, if your servers are just all in one room, then any network problem between you and the rest of the internet can bring down your whole system. So you want to give people as many ways to reach your website as possible, which means a whole constellation of servers all around the world. That's where host networks like Amazon Web Services come in. AWS has dozens of data centers at strategic points all around the world. It's a kind of secondary internet that's completely controlled by Amazon. If someone in Chicago wants to watch Stranger Things and the Ohio fiber is tied up, they can get it from Oregon. If Oregon's tied up, they can get it from Quebec. You've probably heard of cloud computing, and this is what it means. It's not some abstract cloud. It's just a bunch of warehouses full of thousands of servers networked together and rented out piece by piece. You can buy a big piece like Netflix and Apple, or a tiny piece for a single website or piece of code. That flexibility has made AWS one of the biggest forces on the web, controlling as much as 40% of the programs running in the public cloud. When you take that 40% away, the internet starts to look really different. Want to watch Netflix? Too bad, it's gone. Same thing with Uber, Expedia, Yelp, Pinterest, and tons more. This isn't just hypothetical. AWS still has regional blackouts sometimes if a system gets misconfigured. They're usually fixed within an hour or two, but while it lasts, you're stuck with companies like Facebook and Google that are big enough to build their own server networks. So how did Amazon end up owning most of the internet? Through the 90s, Amazon's web team was just devoted to making sure Amazon.com loaded fast and didn't go down. They got good enough that in 2000, they started to sell that system to other companies. So if Target or Walmart wanted to get into e-commerce, Amazon could build them an online store using the same technology. From there, the services kept getting more basic and fundamental. AWS officially launched in 2006, just storing files. A few months later, they launched the ability to run programs remotely. They just kept growing, adding more features and data centers and users until it became the monster we know today. It's hard to say how an online store ended up dominating the server market while competitors like Oracle and IBM fell away, but the simple answer is that while other companies got good at making deals and filling contracts, Amazon treated server time like any other product, making it as fast, cheap, and fluid as possible. Now, cloud computing is still really competitive. Microsoft's Azure service is nearly as big as Amazon, and Google's in there fighting for more business too. But AWS is still basically the gold standard, and it's become a really profitable business for the company. In the first quarter of this year, AWS brought in $7.7 billion in revenue, roughly half the company's profits. So what does Amazon do with all that money? Well, the nice thing about being a massive multi-product company is that you can use profitable parts of the business to funnel money to other parts that are still mature. For Amazon, that means growing services like Amazon Prime or launching new products under Amazon Basics, which can be priced so cheap that they drive competitors out of business. That's kind of awkward for Netflix, which is indirectly funding Amazon's competing streaming service under Amazon Prime, but it seems like it's worked out so far. When Amazon bought Whole Foods in 2017, that same dynamic was on full display. Whole Foods is always going to be more expensive than your local grocery store, but Amazon lowered prices up front to reel customers in. And because they had billions of dollars pouring out of the server business, they could afford to. What does that mean for you? Well, for one, it means when AWS does go down, most of the internet just disappears. But as long as it keeps working, Amazon's basically printing money and pouring it into other Amazon products, which means your Netflix binge ends up making your avocado a little bit cheaper. Thanks for watching. If you want to know more about Amazon and their stranglehold on the avocado industry, we have a whole other video about their attempt to start a headquarters in New York that ended up not working out. And as always, like and subscribe and eat avocados.
Okay, so the reason I showed you that so that we're all on the same page is understanding what we're talking about. Now, I'm going to digress for a moment because someone asked me to show you how to get to the QR code. Okay, that's going to help you with your mobile device. So in case someone's not clear on what they were asking about, let me show you. So what I did was I'm going over here and I right-clicked on Class Video Conference Online Login Information. I clicked on that. And down here, oh, am I in the right place? Let me just think for a moment. No, I'm in the wrong place, but I'm going to come back to there anyway. Actually, where I should go is here. I'm going to click on this. And so I'm opening up this Canvas instruction page, and what they're talking about is that once you get Canvas up and running on your browser, what you can do is you can get a QR code to pop up in Canvas, and then you download the app to your iPhone, Android phone, tablet, or your whatever mobile device, and then you can shoot that QR code. And the question was, where's the QR code? Well, what you do is you go to Account, and you'll see where it says QR code for mobile login. Now, I can't display my QR code because of this message here. Sharing a QR code can give others immediate access to your account through the Canvas mobile application. So you want to be careful with that. So if I were to click proceed, I would be putting on this video a QR code that would have administrative access to my Canvas account. So obviously I wouldn't do that. Okay, so that's where you find the QR code. Okay, so back to our main discussion here. I was over here on online classroom access. The reason I'm over there is that we had a student ask a really great question. And the student, Aniqua, was asking, what's the difference between the certificate of completion from Amazon, your QCC continuing education certificate, and your AWS certification? Let me just give you 3 quick answers, and then maybe we'll delve into it. AWS monitors your progress through Canvas. And when you're successful at completing Canvas, what they'll do is they will give you an acclaim badge like this. Okay, you'll get an acclaim badge like that you can put on your LinkedIn page or put in your resume, whatever you'd like to do. Okay, so what you do to get that is in your course, and you'll have in this 16 weeks, I'm going to give you access to 6 courses, starting with the first 3 that you have now. And for those of you who are new, the only one you need to really think about is Foundation, okay? Because that's the beginning. I think if I go back here, I'll get to it a little bit easier. Yeah. Okay, so this module, ACF, stands for Academy Cloud Foundation. Okay, this is your first module, and we're going to spend about a week on this. Now, for some of you, maybe you need to spend longer. Don't worry about it. The way I'm structuring the course is the following. We have 2 8-week sessions. This first 8-week session is going to be focused on developing. The second 8-week session is going to be focused on system operations. So we have 2 8-week sessions giving us a total of 16 weeks. The first 2 weeks of each of those sessions, we're going to be reviewing the foundation course in week 1 of both of those sessions. We're going to review the system architect course, okay, week 1. Now, different people with different backgrounds and different objectives are going to go through this course differently. If you're a person that's just getting exposure, okay, you're going to go as fast as you can. I always tell students, please, please, please work every day, but work at a pace that makes sense for you. But you got to do it every day. Every day you got to do something with this. This is why I'm asking you to put it on your phone. So you could be someplace in the dentist's office. Someone was telling me about waiting in the dentist's office. And what really messed it up for this gentleman was he wasn't in this class with Canvas on his phone, because he ended up having a very disagreeable conversation with the receptionist about why he was waiting so long. Now, if he had had Canvas on his phone, he could have been sitting here watching AWS videos and not realizing that he had just spent 3 hours waiting in the dentist's office. So we are making our contribution to the dentists and doctors and optometrists of the world by giving you Canvas on your phone. All kidding aside, if you have Canvas available and you don't have to go through the trouble of firing up a computer, Okay, that's why you want to have Canvas on your phone. So the first thing is you get Canvas in your browser. After you get Canvas in your browser, what you can do is go ahead and, as I did a moment ago, you click on Account, you click on QR for mobile, you fire up the application on your mobile app. It's going to turn on your camera. You're going to put the QR code so that you can see it. It will grab all of your sign-in information and automatically log in your mobile device. Easy peasy, okay? And you'll have Canvas in your purse or your back pocket or wherever you keep your phone all the time, so you can study constantly. And this is where all your study material is going to be. So we use Canvas for the delivery of the study material, and we use Basecamp so that we can have a rich communication environment between yourself and myself. So the way you communicate, we communicate in Basecamp. The way that we communicate in Basecamp is when you log on to Basecamp and you select our 2021 CE, this is what you have. And you'll have two choices: go to Campfire, go to the message board. So there's actually a third choice that's not obvious. You can click on someone's picture and you could click ping. This is one of our superstar students that's actually certified as a solutions architect. So if you can get Artem to answer a question for you, that's a pretty good thing. Artem, are you here with us today? I don't know if Artem's logged in. I wanted to thank him personally for helping out a student. Hey, Artem, thanks a lot. I want to appreciate your work. Let me show the class what you did. We have a really great student. He's one of the best students we've ever had at Queensborough. And he and Artem worked together to add serverless to his application. And this is the kind of thing that you're going to learn in this class, okay? This is Raul. Raul's awesome. My story began in El Salvador, where I was born. During my delivery into the world, I suffered a lack of oxygen to my brain, which resulted in a near-death experience. My mom's doctor was on vacation, so the doctor who had no idea what my mom's situation was. And long story short, when I met Raul, we were on campus, and I walked into the classroom, and he was sitting there in his chair, and he had a computer screen that was mounted to his chair at eye level. And I was looking for a keyboard, but he doesn't have a keyboard because he can't use his hands. So he types with his eyes. So he took our ET 718 class at Queensborough. He was my best student ever in ET 718. And one of the things he wanted to do was to move his website from another service over to Amazon, which he did. Now, one of the things he had to do was you can actually host your website without a server at Amazon, but you give up some functionality. So some of the functionality they gave up is that he wanted for people to be able to put their name, phone number, email address, and a message, click submit, and he would get an email. Well, there's actually a facility that you can do that in. And by the way, I was just speaking with this gentleman. Ooh, I should look at this. What's it say? Ooh, what's it say? What's it say? I'm curious. You probably looked this up anyway, so I'm going to look. Okay, so Oliver's worth someplace between $1 and $5 million. That's pretty impressive, huh? Okay, and he did that all in technology. Okay, Oliver is also very, very skilled in industry. You wouldn't guess that Oliver was from Poland, would you? But anyway, Oliver's from Poland, and here he is in Wikipedia. And just before getting on the class with you, I was talking to Oliver. We met many years ago when he was doing a company called Epicentric. In 1988, he began, eventually led to the founding of Epicentric. So I met Oliver when he was doing Epicentric as a startup. They sold this for $1 gazillion, and it worked out well. But anyway, the reason I bring up Oliver to you is that he was just telling me that he was doing something with the very same service. It's called Amazon Simple Email Service. That I don't, Artem, I don't know if you guys used SES or if you just did it strictly with doing it as a topic. But what Simple Email Service will do, and that's something at AWS, that's an AWS service, AWS SES. What this will allow you to do I think I hit the wrong thing. Okay. Yeah, Simple Email Service. What this will allow you to do well, why don't I just play the intro? It's only 1 minute.
Amazon Simple Email Service, or SES, is a cloud email service provider that can integrate easily into your existing technology. Using the Amazon SES SDK, or SMTP, emails can be configured quickly. Whether you send transactional or marketing emails, you only pay for what you use. Amazon SES also supports a variety of deployments, including dedicated, shared, or owned IP addresses, and reports on sender statistics and the deliverability dashboard help businesses make every email count. Amazon SES has the scale of AWS, with the security and compliance options businesses expect. DNS options like SPF or DKIM validate your unique identity, and configuring a virtual private cloud, or VPC, can keep it all on your network. Amazon SES is a high-scale inbound and outbound email service that integrates easily with high deliverability. Try it today.
So, in this situation, Rahul got rid of his server, and we were saying, well, how can he have people fill this in? And how can we have people fill this in, hit submit, and then it gets sent to them? When he was at the other service, he was paying, I don't know, maybe $10 a month, $15 a month, $10 to $15 a month to have this run on a server. Now we're doing this serverlessly. Okay. So what Artem did, and I really appreciated Artem, working together with Rahul, what they did was they used AWS serverless architecture. And I don't know, did you use Simple Notification Service only, or did you use SES as well? There are a couple of different ways to do this, but one way is, that's really cool, you could use that's the harder way to do it. So they used SES, and as I recall, and Lambda. So they used SES and Lambda. What Lambda allows you to do is to run code in the clouds for any number of people, for one person or 1 million people, you don't care. Okay? And it used to be you had to care, because if all you had was one itsy bitsy little server and you had 1 million people hit you because you were just on the evening news and they wanted to find out all about you, well, your website would stop working because you weren't ready for all that traffic in that one itsy bitsy little box. Okay, enter Lambda. All of a sudden, you have no box. Amazon has this little magical thing that that allows you to write the code as if you're writing for one person, but it will automatically make the magic happen if you get 1 million people. And it's only going to bill you for what you use. So that's what Artem and Raul did with this. And so when I hit submit here in a moment, it's going to go through some things that you're going to learn about in this class. The first thing it's going to go through is something called an API gateway. And then it's going to go, and that's a service at Amazon. So what I'm kind of doing is in a soft way, introducing you to that this thing has many tentacles. You just saw a video where the gentleman told you it started off simple, now it's very complex, and now it's not only very complex, but it's huge money, and 40% of the internet runs on it. Okay, that's a huge number, 40% of the internet. Well, let's digress for a moment. How many AWS servers does Netflix use? Let's find out how many. Okay, let's take a little guess here. Who wants to guess? I'll give you 5 seconds to guess. 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I'm going to tell you. Nice. Close. 100,000 server instances. Netflix uses more than 100,000 server instances for all of its computing and storage needs. It does everything on Amazon except deliver the movies. To deliver the movies, it decided that it would set up its own network to deliver the movies. And as I understand, the way they do it is they have arrangements with all of the cable companies. So they put their hardware in the at the cable companies. And that's how they do. Do their movies. The cable companies that are internet providers. Okay, like here in New York, we have Spectrum that used to be Time Warner. So in the spectrums of the world, Netflix would go ahead and put their hardware out there. Now, Amazon offers the same thing. Now, when you spread your servers around the world to deliver content, they call that a content delivery network or content distribution network. A content delivery network or content distribution network is a geographically distributed network of proxy servers and their data centers. So bottom line, what that means is you spread this thing all around the world. Amazon has something like that. It's called Amazon, this is called AWS Cloud Foundation, AWS. Now, why do you care about this stuff? Here's the magic. Everything that I'm mentioning to you, you can use to solve problems. That's what this is about. It's about you learning how to solve problems. So everything that I'm showing you, so this is AWS's content distribution network. So they have what they call points of presence at all these dots around the world. The video that you're watching from me right now is going over whatever content distribution, wherever you are in the United States, whatever content distribution network you're closest to in the United States, that's where ultimately the signal that's coming to you, that's how it's getting to your cable company. Okay, that way it reduces the amount of distance that it has to travel to get to you. So everything that I'm telling you about, the Amazon content distribution network called CloudFront, the simple email service that Artem and Raul used here. So when I click this button, it's going to use 3 services at Amazon. 4, actually, maybe 5. Raul's a very responsible young man, and he realized that he had a problem. Okay, his problem was after he built his site, it wasn't natively secure. You see this HTTPS? That S relates to security, and you see this little lock? please, please, please don't put any information on any website that doesn't have this. Who can tell me what this little lock means? Encryption. That means that the communication between the browser on your computer and wherever it's communicating with is being secured by encryption. So that means that as it travels around the world from server to server to server to server, if it wasn't encrypted, my name, my address, and my email could be sniffed by somebody as it travels around the internet. So your personal information, if you don't see this lock here, is available to anyone. Okay? So you want to do that. So Raul is very, very conscientious. And he realized that now that he's asking for data, name, in my case here, you got your name, phone number, email address, okay? Now I'll give you another one. When you get this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my email address out. So I have to figure out how to do that. Okay, so let's see, if I just take the email address, my phone number out, I'll probably take my email address out too. Okay, here's the problem. I'm going to make this video available, so it'll be my responsibility. I'll leave his website up here, and I'll figure out a way to in my video editing software, because here's what the problem is. I do not allow any personal information for anyone to be in our videos. The reason is because I make the videos personally available. Anybody in the world, and I won't show you now, but maybe sometime during the class, I'll show you in using Amazon to put out our class videos, and our class videos will be hosted on Amazon and AWS somewhere. I get a record of everywhere. And I know that I don't have any people signed up for my classes in China. I have one student in Seoul, Korea, but I don't have anybody in China. I don't have anybody in Eastern Europe or Russia. Yet I see that people access my videos from those countries. Isn't that amazing? The other day, I took a look at the servers that this class website runs on, ET718. This is a class we have where we teach folks how to build websites. And I noticed that this website was being attacked regularly from around the world. And at the time I looked at it, there's a product called AWS Guard Duty. AWS Guard Duty. Protect your AWS accounts, workload, and data with intelligent threat detection. So they're constantly improving this product, and they're going to be adding artificial intelligence, all kinds of stuff. So I have Guard Duty. I'll just play this for you.
Regardless of cloud or on-premises, monitoring your infrastructure and detecting threats is important and critical. But to detect threats and protect your infrastructure and workloads, you have to deploy additional software and security infrastructure with appliances, sensors, and agents. Then you have to set them all up across all of your accounts. Then you have to monitor and protect those accounts, which means you have to collect and analyze tremendous amounts of data. Then you have to accurately detect threats, then prioritize and respond to alerts. Then you have to do all of this at scale while making sure you don't disrupt the business or impede the flexibility you have in the cloud. Traditionally, this all requires a lot of expertise, even more time, and tons of upfront costs. And now, as you journey to the cloud, you need a cloud-scaled, easier, smarter, and more cost-effective way to protect your AWS accounts and workloads. Introducing Amazon Guard Duty, an intelligent, cloud-scale managed threat detection service. that helps you continuously monitor and protect your AWS accounts and workloads. With just a few clicks, GuardDuty starts protecting your accounts and workloads using machine learning, anomaly detection, and integrated threat intelligence across multiple AWS data sources. Then, GuardDuty sends you detailed alerts that help you prioritize and remediate threats, providing actionable detections so you can respond faster. GuardDuty is simple to enable and run, with nothing to deploy or manage and no risk of impacting your accounts. Amazon GuardDuty is optimized for the cloud and scales with you, no matter your size, including multi-account support that lets you manage all of your AWS accounts from a centralized security account. And with Amazon GuardDuty, you pay as you go. There are no additional upfront costs or additional licensing fees. GuardDuty supports AWS CloudWatch events, allowing you to push alerts to your existing event management or workflow system. You can even use CloudWatch events with AWS Lambda to trigger automated remediation and preventative measures. With Amazon GuardDuty, you now have an easier, smarter, and more cost-effective way to actively monitor and protect your AWS resources and accounts. Get started with a free trial of GuardDuty today.
Okay, we're going to take a break in a moment. So the way we got on that GuardDuty was I was telling you about a couple of things. We're talking about security. And I started by pointing out that his site uses HTTPS. So all of this at Amazon. Okay, so at the end of the day, he started out at a competitor. I wouldn't even call them a competitor. He started out with traditional hosting, where he had a server there. He was paying between $5 to $15 a month for sitting someplace where he had to manage the server. Okay, so what managing the server means is you've all done this, right? Has anybody here ever not installed a Windows upgrade or a Mac upgrade? On your cell phone, right? You're always getting new operating systems, okay? That's what we talk about, managing the server. Okay, and in this case, just like you have to put new security patches and upgrades, and that's most of the time, that's what they're doing. If you get a new upgrade, it probably has something to do with security, right? For your phone. So in the same way that you get those security upgrades for your phone, he's responsible for, as things come out for his server, before he went to AWS, he would have to patch all that stuff. And he's paying monthly. Let's say he's paying roughly $100 a year. $100 a year, and he's got to do a lot of work, and he has no room for growth. He has an incredible story. Let's say somehow he was on television, and people saw him, and they got excited, and they wanted to reach him, and they go to his website. That one little server that he had sitting out at the other place, it couldn't handle it. So if the Channel 7 News, and we've had students on ABC News. Okay, so let's say ABC News, as they've done with other students, came and ran a story. And all of a sudden his website gets pounded. Well, when he was at the other place, it could only handle so much traffic. So he's very astute to say, I'd like to, now that I'm learning this, I'd like to move this to AWS. And that's what I'm hoping for everybody here. So that you're going to find places that what you learn in this class, you can do something that's personally important to you, something that's meaningful. Okay, solve a problem that you have. Okay. Well, so in moving to AWS, the net result was his site is now serverless. If he got 20 million hits, it wouldn't matter, because the approach to the architecture is such that it not only is it's now serverless, it's cheaper, and it automatically scales to whatever the amount of traffic is that hits it for whatever reason. So he's going from paying $100 a year to paying next to $0 a year. Okay, that's one. With Artem's assistance, what they did was they used several services here. What they did was, when I press this button, I'm going to press that button. Oh, it's going to make me enter a phone number. Okay, so it's doing validation. That's okay. I'll replace this in the video, so I'll have to edit it out in the video. So you want to be careful with that, by the way, when you post videos, but you already know that everybody can see it. So this is what just happened. When I pressed this button, what it did was it sent a signal to this service. It's called the API gateway. And you'll be learning about this in this class. So it sent a signal to this service called API gateway. That took in my information. Then it went to a service at Amazon called Lambda. Artem, what language did you guys use in your Lambda implementation? So what you can do is you can write in many, many, many different languages.
When you're building applications, you want them to deliver a great experience for your users. Maybe you want your application to generate in-app purchase options during a gaming session, rapidly validate street address updates, or make image thumbnails available instantly after a user uploads photos. To make this magic happen, your application needs back-end code that runs in response to events like image uploads, in-app activity, website clicks, or sensor outputs. But managing the infrastructure to host and execute back-end code requires you to size, provision, and scale a bunch of servers, manage operating system updates, apply security patches, and then monitor all this infrastructure for performance and availability. Wouldn't it be nice if you could just focus on building great applications without having to spend lots of time managing servers? Introducing AWS Lambda. AWS Lambda is a compute service that runs your backend code in response to events such as object uploads to Amazon S3 buckets, updates to Amazon DynamoDB tables, data in Amazon Kinesis streams, or in-app activity. Once you upload your code to Lambda, the service handles all the capacity, scaling, patching, and administration of the infrastructure to run your code and provides visibility into performance by publishing real-time metrics and logs to Amazon CloudWatch. All you need to do is write the code. AWS Lambda is very low cost and does not require any upfront investment. When you use AWS Lambda, you're simply charged a low fee per request and for the time your code runs, measured in increments of 100 milliseconds. Getting started with AWS Lambda is easy. There are no new languages, tools, or frameworks to learn. You can use any third-party library, even native ones. The code you run on AWS Lambda is called a Lambda function. You just upload your code as a zip file or design it in the integrated development environment in the AWS Management Console. Or you can select from a list of function samples pre-built for common use cases such as image conversion, file compression, and change notifications. And built-in support for the AWS SDK makes it easy to call other AWS services. Once your function is loaded, you select the event source to monitor, such as an Amazon S3 bucket or Amazon DynamoDB table, and within a few seconds, Lambda will be ready to trigger your function automatically when an event occurs. With Lambda, any event can trigger your function, making it easy to build applications that respond quickly to new information. To learn more about AWS Lambda, visit our website and you can get your first Lambda function up and running with a few clicks in the AWS Management Console. And with the AWS free tier, you can try Lambda for free.
The gentleman asked the question in the video, how did AWS get bigger than IBM and all the usual suspects? Well, they just mentioned free tier in there, and on the video, the gentleman said that Amazon did in technology what it does everywhere, try to make things as convenient and as inexpensive for the customer, what they call obsessing over the customer. Many of you have asked me about preparing for certification exams. And since we're talking about Lambda, I want to mention something with that. There's something called A Cloud Guru. Okay. I haven't used them too much. Okay. Now this is their website. They're a very big company. This is a serverless website built on Lambda. And for their first year of operations, because they were huge now, huge. But Lambda is so generous, and AWS's free tier is so generous, they were able to operate for their first year of business without any expense for the website. So they had this global website that operated around the world totally free because it was on the free tier. Okay? And everything that they do on this website, there is no server. It's all done in Lambda. So anyway, this is one thing that folks use. Another service that folks use is something to prepare for sites. I use this myself. Now, I never used this before. I passed practitioner and solutions architect without this. When I went to developer, I decided that I would use this, and I like it a lot. It's called Wiz Labs. Wiz Labs. So for, I don't know, less than $50, I bought a bunch of things that they have, and it's pretty cool. And what they're going to do is they're going to give you questions. Now let's see. They have a free tier, so I'm just going to open up this free tier, and let's see, start quiz. So after you've gone through all the AWS materials, you can do something like this. Your development team has currently made changes, yada yada yada, and they ask a question. Okay. And so anyway, and then if you don't know the answer to the question, you can ask them to show you the answer. Oh, it's answer D, and then they'll explain to you why, and they'll give you a place where you can go out to AWS and study the area. So it's not a bad thing. Now, like I said, I was able to pass solutions architect and practitioner without using anything but the AWS materials. I did use Wiz Labs, and I like Wiz Labs because it gives me a way to go through AWS documentation that's related to a topic, okay? So I don't like it necessarily for the questions. I like it more for helping me to become more rounded with the documentation, okay? So I can tell you that I don't think I saw very many questions that were asked here when I took the exam. But if you use this to help round out your knowledge, I think it's very effective. And I would guess that it probably gave me a 10% edge on the test, having spent time. And they have hundreds of questions. Plus, at the end of the day, it's about you becoming better at this. Now, we're going to take a break in just a few minutes for 15 minutes. We'll take a 15-minute break, just a minute here, and then I'll check your emails and try and get everybody online. And then we'll come back and we'll do a lab together. Okay. So let me just finish the concept. We'll take a break at 25 after, okay? And I'll give you a little bit longer. We'll come back at quarter to the hour, all right? So we're going to take a break at 25 after. We'll take a 20-minute break, give everybody a chance, and let me see if I can help everybody get online. It's not online here. All right, so what have we talked about here? We've talked about Lambda, and I was tracing this through for you. What I want to do is tell you where my success came from. What happened was I put my information here, I clicked submit. Raul was kind enough to have done the work so that my information was protected and encrypted as it went through the internet, so that no nefarious person that's looking for unencrypted data would have my name, my phone number, my email address, and my message. Because if you don't have a lock here, anybody can see your data, okay? And they don't have to see it in real time. They're going to capture it and look at it later. And they go, this is how they compromise people. They just gather loads of information from various different sources, and then they match it up. All right. So what I was saying to you is that when I clicked that button, it went through the API gateway. Then from the API gateway, which can receive an output from a website, it triggered logic that Artem wrote in Node.js. That logic packaged up all the information. I'm going to give you a technical term, and I'm going to give you a link to Wikipedia. This is something you do need to know. It's pronounced JSON, okay? And I'm going to give you a link to that and Wikipedia. You need to know what JSON is, no matter who you are. I don't care if you say, I'm a non-techie. I don't want anything techie. JSON, you got to know what JSON is. Okay, JSON is called JavaScript Object Notation. It's very simple. It's what we call key value pair. What's a key value? Key, first name, value John. Key, last name, value Smith. Key is alive, value true. Key, age, number 27. Key value pair. That's what JSON does. And I gave you a link. You do really need to know that in this world today, JSON. So the reason I mentioned to you is that my information here was packaged up in JSON form. Name, Michael Lawrence. Phone, that number. Email, that email address. Message, that message. It was packaged up as JSON. It was passed through the API gateway. Now, these are all things you're going to learn about. So this is the first time you're hearing about it. And the way you learn things is that you hear them over and over and over again. So that's my purpose in talking to you about it right now. I'm starting that repetition that's going to lead to your mastery, okay? So it goes to the API gateway. The API gateway is set up. He configured it to receive the information and pass it to his code sitting in Lambda. His code sitting in Lambda then goes to the simple email service, repackages the code into an email format that makes sense, and then he has the simple email service send it to Raul in an email. Okay. And what's so cool about this is Raul knows that he's going on, I don't know, Oprah, okay? So he calls Artem and says, hey, Artem, you know what we need to do? If I go on Oprah, I'm going to get 5 million emails. So instead of it going to email, what I want to do is I want to send it into a database. I'm not going to play you the video on this. We'll look at the video when you come back. But this is something called DynamoDB. This is another service at Amazon. So Artem said, when is the thing out with Oprah? Oh, Tuesday, no problem. So Artem and Raul would get together and they would change the back end. He would go back into his code that's executing in Lambda, and remember on the left he has the API gateway, he has Lambda in the middle, then he has the SES. But what he could do is he could say, you know what we're going to do is we're just going to capture the information and we'll load it into DynamoDB so that you're not going to get pounded with email requests because you just went on TV, okay? And they filled out your form. And maybe we even want to get some more information, but let's say this is it. You don't want the address or anything like that. And so it all goes into a database, and all he had to do was make some relatively minor changes to his code running in Lambda. And then once Lambda successfully executes, it sends a message back to the left going to the API gateway. And the API gateway sends a message back to the website. And that's where this successful OK button came from. All right, let's take a break till 1:45. If you're having trouble with connectivity in any way, and the good news is we're almost there. You only need 2 things in this class. 3 things, and one of them you have. If you're hearing me, obviously you're on Chime. Then you need access to Basecamp, and you need access to Canvas. So I'll check my email now. Let's take a break. We'll see you at 2:45. 15 minutes from now, we'll come back together. That's closer to 20 minutes. 15-ish minutes. We'll see you there. And I'll see if I can solve the problems. See you in a few minutes. Okay, we'll be getting underway in just a minute. Just give folks a few more minutes to join us. Okay, let's get back underway. Brian, I think that I've solved your problem, so you should be okay now. All right. So we were talking about this, and Artem, again, thanks a lot for doing all that heavy lifting. So what we've been talking about here, I've exposed you to DynamoDB. I think I'm going to play this video for you. Let's see. Is there a video? Here it is.
You've just built a promising new app that the world has never seen before. New users are coming in, but can your database scale to handle all the requests? Amazon DynamoDB. It was built to handle internet scale applications at Amazon, because traditional databases just weren't built to handle Amazon Prime Day's millions of requests per second. It's a fully managed service, so you don't have to worry about patching and upgrading your databases to the latest version. This means you can sleep in peace without being paged in the middle of the night. Not only are encryption and data recovery built in, but DynamoDB has an industry-leading service-level agreement. DynamoDB handles more than 1 trillion requests per day, and more than 100,000 AWS customers use DynamoDB. Get started today with DynamoDB, the hyperscale database for modern apps that need performance at any scale.
Okay, we're going to watch one more video, then we're going to get into a lab. So what's the takeaway from the last several minutes, hopefully, has been to get you to focus on the S in AWS, services. It's all about services. And the services offer such compelling value, such a compelling value proposition that businesses can't do without them. And if you're in business and you choose not to use AWS, you are probably giving up some competitive advantage. Okay, so that's the way they've positioned themselves, and it's pretty compelling to me. And that's why you're here, because if we go to the job boards, okay, let's go to Dice Salary Calculator. Dice Salary Calculator. This might be good. Is this it? Yeah, this is it. So let's say I put in software, S-O-F-T. Let's say I put in software developer, New York City, 0 years of experience. Let's estimate the salary on that. So it says that if you're a software developer with 0 years of experience, you're coming in at between 55 and 78,000, their best guess. Okay. Look at this. If you add Angular Web Services to that, that's going to bump you up if you know something about that. By the way, these are things that I teach in my classes. So I teach Golang, so forth. Anyway, so you see, if I just put cloud in here, look at that. Look at this, cloud. That's where cloud is going. This shows you the relative value of the direction that the interest is going in these. Agile, also. AngularJS is probably going. No, AngularJS is going. I didn't think it would. I teach something called Angular, which is the next generation of Angular. Now, so what are we looking at? Software developer, New York City. How many people are you? How many people out there are happy with this? If this is where I help you get to, are you happy with this? I got a note. Anybody else? Is anybody happy with 62 to 87,000 a year? I got some no's. I got some no's. Okay, if it's a no, give me the number. What's the number you're looking for? Give me a number that you're looking for. Okay, so let's try some stuff. What if we say C++ developer? Well, let's say we had software developer. Let's say you're a software engineer, whatever that is. Software engineer. Let's see if that gets you anything. 59 to 83,000. Let's say that you're a C++. C++ developer. Let's see what that does for you. Still about the same. Let's say you're a Java developer. Maybe we got to do Java. Java developer. Maybe we got to get you some more experience here. Let's give you 5 years experience in the business. Well, I got you a few more pennies, right? Let's see. I'm gonna go back to 0 here. Let's see. Somebody, what would you like me to put in here? Somebody give me something. What have I missed? JavaScript, Python. Say you're a Python developer. Oh, it went down. Oops. Python, that went down. Oh, how about a Go developer? Let's try that. Let's see, if I just put Go developer, what happens here? Did we get anything? Is this Golang? Let's see, am I really doing Golang here? Golang, no, I won't do that, okay. Let's try this one. Let's put this in, let's put in this one. Machine learning engineer. Let's see if you're machine learning engineer, whatever that is. Does that get you anything today? Well, okay, get you a little bit higher, machine learning. Okay. Let's see. Data analytics. Data analyst. Okay, let's see. Does that get you anything? Nah, not too much. You're better off with the machine learning, right? Receptionist. Okay, that's probably the one. Receptionist. 24 to 37. Let's try this. Information security. Information security analyst. Let's see what that is. 85,000. Let's try this. AWS solution architect. Let's see if that's anything. 100 to 126,000. Are we doing okay here? Do you understand why you're here? Do you understand why you're here? We'll add cloud architecture to that. Bang. Bump it up a little bit. Okay, add software architecture, cloud architecture. Ooh, look at that, look at that, look at that. Not bad, huh? Okay. So your 16 weeks, our 16 weeks together is to see if we can make a dent in this and get you moving in this direction, because it's highly valued today. Okay. Now, all those other things are great, and it's good to have a background in those. It's very, very important to have a background in this. Okay, now, so that's the why. And the what? Amazon Web Services. We're talking about services. Amazon DynamoDB service. Don't remember, we talked about that. We're going to come back to DynamoDB. I told you should know about JSON. Let's talk about how information is stored today. There are a couple of themes. And I don't have a graphic for this, so I'm just going to tell it to you real quick, and we'll talk about this again some other time. But basically, there's something called a relational, there's JSON, which is key value pair. So what happened was, it cost a lot of money. How much does it cost? How much does it cost to use SQL Server? Can we get a number here? How much does SQL Server cost? Standard server, $889, whatever, yada, yada, yada. SQL Server is very, very expensive. Now, is this a Microsoft? Let's see. SQL Server licensing. Okay, so if you're going to run the Enterprise Edition, they'll charge you $7,128 per core. Okay, so what does that mean? Okay, so let's say you have a $30,000 let's see, what do you get for a $30,000 Dell server? Here's one. Here's an HP Pro Lion. This thing, I just want to pick something. I just want to see how many cores it had. There are 2 processors, and I don't see how many cores they have. Let's see, more to the processors. There are 2 processor cores. There are 20 cores. You see this? 20 processor cores, all right? Look, David wants to talk about buying something. Look at this. 20 processor cores. So when we look at that SQL Server processing, if we're running it on that $13,000 box, Microsoft is going to get a license fee from us of $7,000 per core. That's $140,000 to run their database. See, so the point is expensive. Okay, they had a stranglehold on the market. Okay, so I can replace this. How much does it cost to use Oracle? $2.50 per user per month. Let's see. What is this? Oracle. I want to find. What are the costs of Oracle? Let's see. This is pretty good. This is from a few years ago. Let's see. What are they saying? Quorum. Whoa, boy. Look at this. $47,000 flipping dollars a year. What do you think of that? $47,000 a year. Okay, now, Amazon, the retailer, used to use a lot of Oracle. And whatever, 15 years ago or so, they figured out that they didn't need to. Because what they figured out was Oracle is what we call a relational database. I'm not going to get into that. I'll give you a Wikipedia page that you can read on your own about that. If you don't know what a relational database is, it just means you have multiple tables. Let's see if they have a nice picture of something here. They don't. Take a look at this and, search the internet, come up with it. We'll talk about it more down the road, but I don't want to really get into it. But this is the kind of database that we were just looking at that was costing tens of thousands of dollars. What they realized was that they're looking, as we get bigger, we got to pay these people more. This is not good. So what they realized was 70% of their information could be stored in a different type of database, a database that used what we were just calling something like JSON, key value pairs. And this is what this NoSQL. So when you hear the term relational, that has to do with, if we do relational, SQL, Wiki, let's see what we come up with here. Relational database and so forth. So SQL stands for Structured Query Language. I gave you a video to watch a few days ago, First 100 Years of IBM. If you have every video I give you, watch. It's going to give you perspective, because the more you have perspective, the easier it is to learn this stuff. It won't be foreign. You'll see how it really impacts everything you do and how you're already using it. Because, for example, every one of you used a SQL database today. Who here was just about to say that? Who here, when I started talking about SQL databases, was saying, oh yeah, professor, you know, we all used the SQL database today. Which one of you was about to say that? Was somebody about to say that? All right, so let's talk about that. On your phones, there's something called SQLite 3, probably. It's used on most phones, okay? It's used on most phones. Oh, I love it. This is an important word for you, by the way, to file away, this ACID, okay? ACID's an important word for you. We'll give you a link on that. See, the way I teach is we kind of take a trip. Now, we're going to do a lab the last 30 minutes of class, all right? We're going to take a little trip here because you need to know your way around the city. Okay, you kind of need to be able to get around. So we take a little trip. This ACID thing you deal with all the time. So you are running SQLite 3 probably on your mobile device. iOS, SQLite 3 iOS. Okay, so it's running on your iPhones, it's running on your Android device. Okay, running on your iPhones, running on your Android device. It's a relational database. So there are two types of databases. It used to be there was just SQL. In that video that I gave you, IBM the First 100 Years, they talk about IBM developing structured query language. So they were the first to come up with this IBM. Okay, and it became a global standard. Right? What ACID is about, I gave you this ACID thing. Here's how ACID impacts you. All of us have had a situation where we went into the store. This has happened to everyone listening to me. You went to buy something with your credit card. They swiped your credit card, and it looked like you were done. Then they say, no, I need to swipe it again. And what did you think? What did you think when they swiped your card the second time? Did anybody think, am I going to get charged twice? Read up on this, ACID. Okay, what ACID is about is that the way the database is set up, if it's ACID compliant, unless the entire transaction happens, you're not going to get charged double. So ACID is something that's very, very important. So that's why I think I gave you the link to this. Let me give you the link to this in case I didn't. And they were saying that SQLite 3 is ACID compliant. Okay, so to get a job, you don't just need to have a certification. You need to be tech smart. So our objective here is to make you so tech smart that you can pass the test, okay? You don't want your, okay, who remembers the TV commercial about the gymnasium? What's it? Planet, who can help me? Planet, what is it? What's the name of the gym? Planet what?
Fitness.
Somebody help me out. The Planet Fitness. Do you remember the commercial they had? And they have this guy. What does the guy say? They ask him, what does he do? Who remembers what he says as they show him the door? Come on, somebody has to remember that commercial, right? You have this big guy, he comes. Yeah, I pick things up and put them down. That's what he says, right? You can't be like that on the job. I took the test and passed it. No. They need more. That's why we're having this conversation, to kind of walk you through what's going on here and what it means to you. You can't be, I took the test and passed it. They need to know. They need to know there's something going on in that brain, right? That's what they need to know. Okay, so that's why we're having this conversation, okay? Because you gotta know things. So this is a very important concept to understand, that when you're talking about ACID, talking about databases, and somebody says in a statement it's ACID compliant, you have to understand that you can do significant financial transactions on this, because unless the entire transaction completes, none of the transaction will go through. And so this is what gives you the ability, and this is why you didn't get double charged, because the system was ACID compliant. So that's why I give you that. And SQLite 3. Okay, I give you this because it's everyone uses it. So we're talking about databases. I want you to know it's not a foreign concept. It's not a foreign concept. Okay, it's not a foreign concept. So what they discovered at Amazon was, they say, the bigger we get, the more money we pay Oracle. The bigger we get, the more money we pay Oracle. And then they said, you know what? Let's do a little analysis here. Let's take a look at exactly what do we need. And they realized that they could move 70% of their database from a relational model to a non-relational model using key value pairs. That's when they created DynamoDB. And now everybody uses DynamoDB. I guarantee you, every person in here has some information someplace that some vendor is storing in DynamoDB on them. Okay. It's when you start to understand how pervasive AWS is in the global economy, it should tell you something when the guy says, and this was a few years ago, 40% of everything that travels on the internet travels through Amazon. Okay. It's become incredibly dominant. Let me just finish the thought. I showed you the income potential. I wanted to show you the number of jobs in New York City. Then we'll get back to the services. This is to finish up our conversation about what's it worth. Indeed.com. And we'll start with receptionists to see how many receptionist jobs do we have. It might be a lot. We have 2,518 jobs. Okay, let's see how many AWS jobs we have. I'm just gonna put AWS here. Then I'll put, if I put AWS jobs. So statistically, it would be easier for you to find a job making 5 times the money as an AWS professional than it would, or significantly more. We saw receptionists top out at 37,000. I think that a really great admin makes about 70,000 or more, maybe. You can make $100,000 as an admin. You're working for a key person that understands your value. It's more than help. If you're working for a top person in a firm, they have no problem paying you a ton of money because you protect them every day. But you see this, if I put AWS, there are 3,933 jobs that have AWS someplace in the job description. This is why we are together right now. This is why we're working together. Okay, so this conversation that we're having, a few things. We're talking about Raul's website. We're talking about the fact that we could take the data here in Raul's website, and if he goes on Oprah, needs to throw it in a database. I was telling you DynamoDB. Then I told you the story of DynamoDB. I told you about Oliver. Okay, and just in passing, I'm having an informal conversation with a friend, only to find out that, oh yeah, we're talking about Amazon SES. How about that? He said, yeah, I just did something with SES, and I said I did too. So how many of you are out there? You are great. You are all magnificent. We had 250 people sign up for the course. I had to build something on Amazon just off, just quick and dirty. My problem was, as you all sign up, how do I get you onto Basecamp and Basecamp and Canvas? It was a manual process. So every day I asked them to send me a spreadsheet. They sent me 2 spreadsheets, one for each class. So what I would do, and I'm not going to show you this, I'm just going to talk you through it. I've talked to you about services. So the first thing that I did was I said, you know what would be very, very cool? If instead of them emailing me, they emailed to an address that went directly into Amazon. And then when the email hit Amazon, there are 2 spreadsheet attachments in there. I'd like it to detach the spreadsheet attachments. Then I'd like to load it into a database. And then I'd like to do queries against it where it would tell me all the new people who I hadn't seen before who had signed up for the course so that I could manually enter them in Canvas and in Basecamp. So using various Amazon services, I was able to do that. The point is that in the old days, you didn't think in terms of, I'm going to use services from this one company to solve a laborious problem, okay? Just now, while we were on break, I just did a class before your class. To process their video, I won't have to edit their video because I didn't have any private information in their video. So I can just take it directly to what it was that we recorded in the class. So to do that, all I have to do is to send it to Amazon S3, and it automatically processes it and then sends me the link that I put in an email. It emails me back with a link. So the theme here is millions of people around the world are now able to solve problems in elegant, inexpensive ways just by having a knowledge of AWS services and the AWS services. And in most cases, when they're small problems, it costs nothing. Is this scary or not? Do you see the kind of growth trajectory? This is why Amazon's growing the way they're growing. And every service that they make is a result of something that customers asked for. So they just don't create goofy, neat stuff. It all has a business purpose. All right, so I'm going through closing up windows here. What was this about? Simple email service. Okay. 100,000 servers at Netflix. I'm showing you the idea of a content distribution network. Showing you, see, they got this $100 billion network, but beyond the $100 billion. So if you want to compete with Amazon, somebody says, I want to compete with Amazon. Well, what you got to start with? 2 things. About probably $200 billion in infrastructure and a boatload of very smart people. And you still have time against you because they got to go build it. That's why the government, the United States government, military, there's something called the JEDI contract, JEDI, MS, AWS. Okay, so what this is about, this is March 5th, 2021. This is a $10 billion contract. That is financially irrelevant to Amazon. It's $10 billion over 10 years. That's $1 billion a year. Amazon, that means nothing to them, okay? But they're fighting this because what they're saying is that they were unfairly not given the contract. And part of what they base that on is Gartner. Okay. Part of what they're basing that on is this. If you look at this, this is probably the right thing. Is this the right thing? Let me see if, no, that's the wrong thing. This is the right thing. Okay, so let's see if I can get a big picture of this. I don't think I can. Let's see, view image. Let's see, maybe this will help me. Okay, so this is a little small. Let me make it big for you if I can. Okay, this is what this is saying. This is the relative capabilities of the 7 companies that can afford to play in a $200 billion business like cloud. Okay, so who you have here down on the bottom is Tencent. This is a major Chinese technology company, followed by IBM, followed by Oracle. Okay, the next step there is then Alibaba Cloud. And they're considered niche players, okay? The leaders in this are Google, Microsoft, and AWS. In bidding for the government's $10 billion contract, In bidding for the government's $10 billion contract, Google dropped out. They said, you know what, we can't. There's stuff in that contract we just can't do today. Okay, so we're done. That left these two, and you can see the relative position. So they were about to give it to Amazon, and then some political things happened, and then they gave it to Microsoft. Something happened, and then they gave it to Microsoft. All right, so that's being contested, but it's insignificant. The point that I'm getting at is that the military, even the government, nation states, cannot build this stuff. This is a technology where it's easier for them to build a nuclear weapon than a global digital infrastructure. So do you see the implication here? So what we're going to spend our 16 weeks together is getting you to build expertise, greater expertise, and how do you create value using AWS's global digital infrastructure? How do you solve problems using their global digital infrastructure? So the Army can't even, the United States government can't just go say, well, we're going to make this ourselves. No, they got to use AWS's or Microsoft's. Okay? And lately, Microsoft's been hammered twice with security issues. I don't know if that's going to affect this. Now, if we go to CIA, AWS contract. CIA AWS contract. Let's see, what do we have? We got anything here? Okay, this is what? This is 2020. What does it say? CIA awards massive cloud contract. This is November 23rd of 2020. How many of you knew about this? I didn't see it when it happened, by the way. That's why I asked if you knew about it. The CIA confirmed the award of its commercial cloud enterprise 2 contract to roll out new cloud hosting capabilities for 17 intelligence agencies. Amazon Web Services, Google, IBM will compete for the task orders. There's a follow contract, yada, yada, yada. But only this time around, I have to bring them from the cloud, yada, 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 yada. Okay, so it's the 23. Okay, and Amazon remains the only cloud infrastructure company to hold the needed security classifications for hosting data and workloads up to the top secret levels, while Microsoft is one step below, working toward that designation. Okay? So anyway, nation states, this is becoming, okay, this is becoming a big deal. So let's look at stealth technology versus quantum computing. This is from 2018. This is why today, okay, so the latest rumblings from the federal government is kill the F-35. Okay, well, this has been going on a while. Okay, you quietly talk. This is from 19. Look at this. Look at the date. This date is 2018. What was this other article I just gave you? It was from 2018. In 2018, it says what? Quantum radar to render stealth technologies ineffective. So, if the biggest thing you have going for you is stealth, that is no longer an advantage. And that's why I would imagine that this article also comes from 2018. Okay. Now, to get stealth, you have to give up a couple of things. Like, you notice you don't see any bombs hanging underneath there? You hang a bomb underneath the aircraft, it reduces your stealthiness. Okay? So, if you're doing stealth and you're doing fighters, you reduce the amount of payload that you can deliver on the target by definition. But we're talking about AWS and supercomputers, and the fact that when you talk about this digital capability today, that while a nation state can build an atomic bomb or a chemical weapon, they can't. They have to look to industry for cloud computing. Isn't that interesting? So recently, I saw just last week there was some talk about this. So if I click on news, this is from 1 week ago. Air Force admits the F-35 costs too much, so it wants. Now, this is very complicated. One of the reasons it's complicated is that we've sold this fighter to all of our allies. Okay? Now, the interesting thing is we didn't sell them the F-22. So apparently there's technology in the F-22 that we're not willing for people outside of the United States to have. But we are willing for them to have this. And now it's looking like the F-35 is obsolete. Now, the reality is that to many people, it made no sense. To many people, this airplane made no sense unless you had autonomous let the spell checker do its work. Autonomous escort drone. Unless you had this. Okay, you see this right here? Unless you had something like this, the F-35 makes no sense. When you're talking about a fighter aircraft, your limiting factor is the human flying the aircraft, because the human is susceptible to G-forces. The operational aircraft of, let's say, an F-16 is beyond the physical capability of the human inside to endure it. So that means that if you put a fighter with a human in it up against a drone without a human in it, automatically the drone wins, because it can rapidly outmaneuver the human aircraft, because the human inside is going to lose consciousness. The drone can pull 20 Gs, okay? The human can only pull maybe 8. Some number significantly less than 20. Okay, so the idea of the F-35 was that it's a station wagon. And the only way that it could survive, the idea was that it's stealthy and nobody gets close to it, and it will kill whoever's trying to kill it before they're within range of it. And if that's not true, the only thing that could help them would be to have a drone-based wingman. Okay, so you have one F-35, and you would want that in the package. Let's say you have nuclear weapons. You do not want a machine learning, or AI at this point making a decision to kill humans. Okay, so you would want a human someplace in the loop to make decisions. Now, all of this is applicable to what you're studying. So what are you studying in this class? You're going to study machine learning. You study data analytics. Okay, machine learning is a portion of artificial intelligence. Okay, we're talking about quantum computing. If I go out and I look at AWS services, let's look at AWS quantum computing. Quantum computing is now available on AWS through Amazon Bracket. Every new leading edge technology, this is why we're here today. Okay, we're looking at those jobs. There are more jobs for somebody with AWS in the title than there are jobs with something with receptionist in the title. That should tell you something, right? All right, so moving on. Okay. We're not going to take a break. We're just going to go completely through this. We're going to watch a video, and then we're going to do a lab together and start doing labs so you can see where it is. So the understanding why is very, very, very important. And understanding the magnitude of importance. Please watch that first 100 years. In 1840, this woman invented the computer, Ada Lovelace. She is credited with inventing the computer, okay, in the 1840s. IBM spent from the early 1900s, okay, the first 100 years of computing. It's an interesting video. And now Amazon's taking it to the next level with this whole global infrastructure and so forth and so on. Okay, so I want you to kind of be able to put this in perspective and understand that while this stuff is so huge and massive, a guy sitting in a wheelchair making a website finds a reason to use it, and it's a compelling reason. So we go from Raul building his website to the CIA with billions to spend, and the answer's the same, AWS. Am I changing anyone's perspective, or am I expanding your thinking on this? Where have you seen a single product that could span all the way from a guy in a wheelchair building a website to the Central Intelligence Agency spending billions, and it's the same product, other than water? And there's a steep learning curve of getting good at it. And what this 16 weeks is about is, for those of you who are non-tech, you need to know this, because look at this. I don't care what your profession is. It's going to touch your profession, and understanding it can only help you. And if you're going to become a knowledge worker in this, that's obvious. We want to get you certified and all this stuff. So, okay, we're going to watch a quick movie about DynamoDB in a moment. Has anybody here ever taken Lyft or Uber? Anybody here ever taken Lyft or Uber? Okay, we're going to look at the beginning of Lyft. You're going to look at the beginning of Lyft, because I think it's relevant and it tells a great story. And then we're going to do our first lab, and then we'll. I think that where we are is that everybody seems to be kind of good on access to Canvas and the Basecamp, so I think we're good here. So I'm going to come over to Campfire and find this video I gave you guys and gals. Here it is right here. So let's watch this.
Hi, excited to be here. My name is Chris Lambert. I'm the Chief Technology Officer with Lyft, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about our journey from being a small, scrappy startup in San Francisco to now being the fastest growing provider of on-demand transportation here in the US. Along the way, I'll highlight how Amazon Web Services has helped us move faster as a company and scale our marketplace more efficiently. I'll start back in 2012. When Lyft launched, it was a really simple service for rides on demand. You could pull out your phone, hit a button, and within a few minutes, the driver would show up and take you anywhere you wanted to go. When we launched, it was just 3 servers, all running in US East in different availability zones. And our very first Lyft ride was completed on May 31st, 2012. And it's funny because the 2 engineers that had built the first prototype weren't really sure how it was going to work in production. Would the state machine work? Would the ride actually happen? So when they were tailing logs, and when they saw the ride drop off event hit production, they're like, well, maybe it worked. We actually don't know. So they called the driver and they said, hey, this is Lyft. Did you drop Daryl off? And the driver's like, yeah, I just dropped him off. He's not in the car. And they're like, okay, great, thanks. And I don't know who was more surprised, like the engineers that this worked, or the driver that they're going to get a phone call after every single drop-off asking if to drop him off. But it was really early on. It was 3 weeks from idea to actual launch. And we were 100% on AWS at the time. The only difference now, we're still 100% on AWS, but we're taking advantage of many more Amazon technologies besides EC2. So fast forward a year, we had our first big milestone as a company, 1 million rides completed. San Francisco was growing like crazy. We had launched Los Angeles and a few other cities, and things were just taking off. You can get an idea of what that growth looks like with just looking at the first 15 months here with our path to 1 million rides. And this has continued for the last 4 years. However, that exponential growth is great, but it didn't prepare us for what was about to happen. We decided to launch 24 additional cities in 24 hours. This was a huge effort across the company: marketing, operations, engineering. And of course, the engineering approach to this problem was, well, let's get out of the way. let's enable auto-scaling. Let's make it so whatever happens in the real world, whether it's a rainstorm or the Super Bowl, anything that happens, we can handle. Our infrastructure should just scale up seamlessly. So we rolled out auto-scaling just in time for our 24-city launch. Went off without a hitch. We doubled our footprint overnight. And you can just see how significant this is. That last little tick there was all in 24 hours. And that was pretty massive growth for us as a company. And auto-scaling works great for your application tier, but there's one more benefit you get from it, which is that we do 8 times as many rides at peak on a Saturday night as we're doing on a Sunday morning. So auto-scaling also allows us to scale down our infrastructure to save a significant amount on infrastructure costs when we don't need to pay for it. So I mentioned auto-scaling application tier, that's fantastic. But what about data store? One of our biggest data stores was outgrowing its current technology, and we decided to move it to Dynamo. This was the ride location tracking system. So every GPS location for all of our rides was stored in this system. We moved it over to Dynamo, and it was so simple to scale up. You had 2 knobs, one for write capacity, one for read capacity. You didn't have to carry a pager. You didn't have to deal with chunk migrations. It just worked really, really well. And we've since moved many of our other data stores over to Dynamo as well. The single biggest launch in Lyft's history came a few months later. This was Lyft Line. Lyft Line is our shared ride service. What that means is if 2 passengers have a very similar route and they're requesting a ride within a few minutes of each other, we can give them the option to share that ride with the other passenger for a significant savings, often up to 50% off their ride. This changed our business significantly, and it was possible because of some analysis that our data science team did with our Amazon Redshift data warehouse. So we had all of our data in Redshift, and they basically would run simulations every few months looking at what would be possible in terms of new transportation modes. And they realized that 90% of our rides at peak times were co-similar enough to another ride where we could actually build this shared rides product. So as soon as this was the case, we kicked off a few engineering teams, and we were able to launch Lyft Line August 2014. And it's been the biggest driver of growth in our biggest markets, and is the future of the company. Fast forward a year, we now have a proliferation of many different microservices, all serving production traffic at Lyft, and we wanted a really easy, simple way for them to communicate with each other. And we built this pub subsystem on top of Amazon Kinesis that funnels every single production event through this system. So every time you open the app, every time you request a ride, every time you move, the car actually moves. It goes through this Kinesis pipeline, and any other service at Lyft can subscribe for events. They can say, I care about credit card ad. So our fraud system can say, let me know anytime someone adds a new payment method, removes a payment method, I want to rescore that user's fraud risk. Our dynamic pricing system can say, let me know every time a driver changes neighborhoods, because I want to make sure I'm pricing these rides as accurately as possible. This is a really complex infrastructure with a lot of moving parts, and it's all simple for us because of Kinesis. October 2015 was 3 years after we launched, huge milestone, $1 billion annual run rate. Business is just bigger than it's ever been. To give you a sense of scale, right now there are over 10,000 people in Lyft rides across the country. For them, they're getting to work, seeing friends, seeing family, relying on Lyft for their income. Downtime is not an option for us, and we've been able to depend on AWS to provide the level of reliability and availability that our users have come to expect from Lyft. So I talked a little bit about the services we have in production. On March 2016, we added our 100th microservice. These are all, again, managed independently, scaled automatically, and these services are collectively serving over 1 million requests per second. This is what powers Lyft. Every time you request a ride, you're not just hitting a single service, you're probably hitting 10 or 20 different services that are working together to make that ride go as smooth as possible. And just to give you a little bit of insight, this is the set of Amazon services we're using today in production. These are all taking real traffic. Teams have depended on them, and they've all worked really, really well for us over the last 4 years. So last big announcement, I'm excited to say, as of last month, we completed 14 million rides. Just for context, it took us 15 months to get to our first million, And in the last month, we've done 14 times that alone. It's our biggest month ever by pretty much any metric. We're incredibly excited to be here. We're hiring in San Francisco, in Seattle. Love to have you help come join, build the future of Lyft, and continue to use AWS whenever it makes sense for our business. So thank you for having me.
Okay, let's go hit AWS. So what I'd like everyone to do is we're going to head over to Canvas. And here let's click on modules. And this is where in class, today was different. In class, I spoke for most of the class because I wanted to do a couple of things. I sort of wanted to lay the foundation for where we were give everyone a chance to get comfortable with the technology. But in most of our classes, and probably starting with Professor Brian, he's not going to be talking about much stuff other than you're going to come to class and do labs together. And that's my goal. So we'll spend our last few minutes together doing a lab together. So looking at your modules, what do we have here? We have Introduction to Cloud Computing, the advantages of cloud computing. You have some videos and a wrap-up video, a student guide, and a knowledge check. Next module, Cloud Economics and Billing. This is very, very important. Okay, it's kind of like the idea when you leave the room, turn the lights out. If you're in computing, one of the things you might have to get used to is that everything that you're using here is a temporary resource, and your goal is to turn it off. Because if you don't need it, you shouldn't be operating. Okay? And that's one of the beautiful things of AWS. So this is going to teach you about cost management and billing. Then the third one, let's see, what's this about? This is about global infrastructure overview. Okay, and let's see, what do we do on the fourth one? Cloud security. And here we hit our first lab, and this is what we're going to do today. So I'd like everyone to get to Module 4, and then what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to click on where it says Introduction to AWS. I'm sorry, Introduction to AWS IAM. And that's going to open this up. Okay, so I'm going to wait a few minutes so that everybody's there. Your screen is going to look different from mine because I'm an instructor. You're going to see something that says My Work or something like that. Go ahead and click My Work, and that should bring you to this view. Okay, so this is what you're looking to see. Okay, this is what you're looking to see. And then what I'd like you to do is there's a button up here. It says Details, Teacher View, AWS, Start Lab, End Lab. I'd like you to click Start Lab. So what's going on when you click Start Lab is it's running what we call a CloudFormation template. And it's nothing that we're directly involved in. But the way they build this system is it's going to actually go out to AWS and create the resources that we need to do this laboratory exercise. Now, this is identity and access management. When you look at AWS around the world, okay, and this is just North America here. It doesn't look like they have a global map available to us. Okay. But also we'll just look at it in the United States. Let's see, maybe this region's availability zones. Yeah. They used to have a nice global map. They don't have the nice global map anymore. So we'll just look at our country. So what do we have here? Okay, they have South America. Okay. Oh, click the access. Is there something here you want me to click? Or are you guys talking to yourself? Let's see. What are you looking at here? Okay. All right. So what I'm doing is I'm looking at chat, and it looks like someone has a problem. If they're not able to help you get in, this is something that what you do is you ping me, and we'll work together on it. Let's see. So here's South America. Middle East and Europe. It's so big they don't show you the whole world in one shot. Asia Pacific. All right, so they just kind of go through there. So North America, South America, the Middle East and Europe, Asia Pacific. Huge network, huge, huge, huge. So what IAM is, through that entire network, the security paradigm functions through the entire global network. And there are two words. One word is authentication, and the other word is authorization. Authentication is when you can identify that a person or a machine is who they say they are. Okay? Because it goes beyond, when you start talking about this level of work, it's not just people who are authenticated. It's other digital systems that are requesting permission to take actions within your digital system. Okay? So you have this global method throughout the entire global architecture. You have this overarching, affects everything in identity and access management. So identity is the authentication. Access is the authorization. So what you're doing is you're making sure you know who you're dealing with. And once you know who you're dealing with, you've already given them a set of parameters as to what they can and can't do. And the they can be an it. So it could be a person. It can be a person, or it can be a machine. So here we go. AWS Identity and Access Management is a web service that enables Amazon Web Services customers to manage users and user permissions in AWS. With Identity and Access Management, you can centrally manage users, security credentials such as access keys, and permissions that control which AWS resources users can access. Let's see what we do with this lab. So now that, in my case, my start lab no longer has a circle going around. So what I can do is I can click this button, AWS. So if your lab is finished loading, go ahead and click AWS. And now what it's going to do is it's going to open up another browser window. You see how it's opened up a browser window? This is called the Management Console. We've been talking about various services like the API Gateway and DynamoDB and the simple email service, etc. If you click on this, actually where it says services, if you click on services, these are all the services at AWS. It's absolutely amazing and astonishing. So when you're becoming certified in AWS, what you're learning about is a critical mass of these services that you would use in most common problems that you would solve. Now, there are some things that are somewhat esoteric and some things that are very, very mainstream. Okay, so you would be learning the lion's share. Now, if you want a list, I'm going to show you something here. I'll just do it this way. This is probably the easiest way. No, actually, it's not the easiest way. Do it this way. Okay, one of the things that I suggested that you might want to take a look at is this very, very long keynote. Andy Jassy. Now,
JP Morgan Chase engineers to decompose applications and migrate workloads. This process helped us uncover problems, helping developers architect.
Okay, trick question. Who is the largest employer, non-government employer in New York City? Who is the largest non-government employer in New York City? Trick question. In the interest of time, I'll answer that. It's JP Morgan Chase. Now, what I have here, when you go through this, take a screenshot of this, and you can make this a goal for yourself. This would be a very, very, very smart goal. During Andy Jassy's 3-hour keynote, he had several business leaders talk about what they're doing with AWS. One of them was the Chief Information Officer of JP Morgan Chase. And in her presentation, she has this slide. And so for those of you who really want to get good at AWS, I just showed you all those services. This would be a great slide to tell you how to prioritize your interest. This slide from JP Morgan Chase, where they talk about the services that they use. They talk about Amazon Elastic Cloud Compute. The gentleman from Lyft mentioned that. Okay, EC2. He said that the way they started was 3 servers in EC2 and 3 different availability zones. What does that mean that he said, the guy from Lyft, when he said that they had 3 servers in EC2 in US East in different availability zones? What that meant was the following. I told you that Amazon has about 100 billion-dollar buildings around the world. They organize those buildings geographically in what they call regions. So each region has 2 or more of these data centers, and they don't call them data centers, they call them availability zones. Okay, so when he said that Lyft started in 3 servers in 3 different availability zones, what that meant was that Lyft started where they only had 3 servers, each of them in a different building. Where? In Amazon's US 1 East region, that happens to be in Virginia. There are 6 buildings there, located something like 100 miles apart, so that one typical disaster couldn't wipe out more than 1 building, okay? So you got an earthquake, you got a whatever, it's probably not going to take multiple buildings out. So what Lyft did when they got started was they put 3 servers in 3 different availability zones of buildings and Elastic Cloud Compute. That's where you use servers. You heard him talk about auto scaling at Lyft. What he's talking about is you can look at whether or not your computer resources are being used. Like you can say, oh God, look at this, the CPU, it's running at 100% or 80% or 70%. And you can make decisions based on how hard your machines are working as to whether to add more machines. And if they're working very lightly, you can take them away. That's what he was talking about, scaling in and scaling out. So for the people that are thinking about certification, really becoming a master of this, go to this presentation on your portable device, get to it, stop it, take a screenshot, and make this your priority hit list. So by the end of your 16 weeks, you want to know all these things, because this is what JP Morgan Chase, the largest employer in New York, this is what they're using. And I'll just read everything off. EC2, Elastic Cloud Compute, auto scaling, Amazon Elastic Kubernetes service. That has to do with microservices. The Lyft guy said they were running 100 microservices. That would involve something like this Kubernetes, okay? AWS Lambda. We've talked about that, serverless computing. Amazon Aurora, I mentioned that as related to relational databases. Elastic Cache, RDS for Oracle, RDS for PostgreSQL, Amazon DynamoDB, Amazon Simple Notification Service, Amazon Simple Queue Service, Amazon Step Functions, Amazon Athena. By the way, that's what you all got into this class. Your data went through Amazon Athena to strip it out so I could give you access to Basecamp and to Canvas. Elasticsearch, Amazon Elasticsearch, Amazon Elastic MapReduce. There's something called PIG, NoSQL MapReduce. It has to do with big data and NoSQL databases. AWS Glue, that lets you just drop data into an S3 bucket. Amazon Transcribe, that's voice to text. So when you make a call to Chase, okay, and you're talking to them, they're using Amazon Transcribe to take everything you say and essentially type it out. Okay, Elastic Block Store, that's like a hard drive. Amazon S3, a storage area. Elastic File System, Virtual Private Cloud, Route 53, Code Deploy, X-Ray, and CloudWatch. This becomes your short list, ladies and gentlemen. This becomes your short list, okay, of the Amazon services. So come back over here. Let's see, where was I? Here, okay. And I was showing you this. I was showing you all these services. So there's a lot here. How do you prioritize it? I would prioritize it based on that slide from the CIO of Chase. Okay, smart way to do it. But we have about 2 minutes left in class. So what you do is what I just showed you. Then you go down to step 1, typically step 5. It's going to walk you through. It's going to walk you through, and Professor Brian's going to pick up with this lab when he starts on Thursday. He's going to walk you through this lab. What I'd like for you to do is to see if you can do a lab every day. These labs are very simple and straightforward. So like it says here, step 5, AWS Management Console, click IAM. So you just come over here and you say, okay, Management Console, I want IAM. IAM. There it is. I click IAM. Now you get your next instruction. This is very easy. In the navigation pane, click Users. Okay, that's over here on the left. Users, done. Okay, good. Now what do I do next? It says the following IAM users have been created for you. Yep, there they are. 1, 2, 3, and student. Okay. Okay. Student is you. Click user 1. So I just want you to see how easy this is. Click user 1. Done. Just follow the directions. Even if you haven't done the module yet, you can do the labs. So I want you to try and do a lab a day. And maybe you do the same lab 3 times. 3 times, just to get used to it. All right, so my goal was to bring you here so you could see where the labs are and to see how easy it is to do these. Then it says what? This will bring you to a summary page for user 1. The permissions tab will be displayed. Okay, look at that. Do I see permissions tab? Yeah, permissions tab. Great. Number 8. Notice that user 1 does not have any permissions. Nope, no permissions. Number 9. Click the Groups tab. And ladies and gentlemen, we are out of time. Okay? I would suggest that if you have time right now, you continue on in the lab and see if you can get through it. Professor Brian will walk you through this lab on Thursday as a group. And each of our classes going forward, this is where we're going to spend most of our time. And we're going to use the labs to find teachable moments to give you insight and information into AWS. Thank you very much for your time and attention. If you have any questions, just go ahead and put them in Campfire on Basecamp. Put them in Campfire. If it's something of a personal nature, you can click my picture and click ping, and that sends me a private email. But general questions, just go ahead and put them in Campfire, because we have a lot of really talented, smart people in the class that have done stuff with AWS before. And if one of the instructors don't get you, there are tons of smart people in the class that can help you as well. Thank you very much. Looking forward to us working together the next 16 weeks. So no matter how technical or non-technical you are, just hang in there. It's going to be just fine. Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.